Again, Walter Rauschenbusch, page 400 in Christianity and the Social Crisis, in the last chapter, What to Do, the subhead, The Upward Movement of the Working Class. The ideal of a fraternal organization of society is so splendid that it is today enlisting the choicest young minds of the intellectual classes under its banner. Idealists everywhere are surrendering to it, especially those who are under the power of the ethical spirit of Christianity. The influence which these idealists exert in reinforcing the movement toward solidarity is beyond computation. They impregnate the popular mind with faith and enthusiasm. They furnish the watchwords and the intellectual backing of historical and scientific information. They supply devoted leaders and give a lofty sanction to the movement by their presence in it. They diminish the resistance of the upper classes, among whom they spread their ideas. But we must not blink the fact that the idealists alone have never carried through any great social change. In vain they dash their fair ideas against the solid granite of human selfishness. The possessing classes are strong by mere possession long continued. They control nearly all property. The law is on their side, for they have made it. They control the machinery of government and can use force under the form of law. Their self-interest makes them almost impervious to moral truth if it calls in question the sources from which they draw their income. In the past, they have laughed at the idealists if they seemed harmless, or have suppressed them if they became troublesome. We Americans have a splendid moral optimism. We believe that truth is mighty and must prevail. Truth crushed to earth shall rise again. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. In the words of the great Anabaptist Balthasar Hubmaier, who attested his faith by martyrdom, truth is immortal, and though for a long time she be imprisoned, scourged, crowned with thorns, crucified and buried, she will yet rise victorious on the third day, and will reign in triumph. That is a glorious faith, but the 3 days may be 3 centuries, and the murdered truth may never rise again in the nation that crucified it, but may come to victory in some other race and on some other continent. The peasants rising in 1525 in Germany embodied the social ideals of the common people. The Anabaptist movement, which began simultaneously, expressed their religious aspirations. Both were essentially noble and just. Both have been most amply justified by the later course of history. Yet both were quenched in streams of blood and have had to wait till our own day for their resurrection in new form. Truth is mighty, but for a definite historical victory, a given truth must depend on the class which makes that truth its own and fights for it. If that class is sufficiently numerous, compact, intelligent, organized, and conscious of what it wants, it may drive a breach through the entrenchments of those opposed to it and carry the cost of victory. If there is no such army to fight its cause, the truth will drive individuals to a comparatively fruitless martyrdom and will continue to hover over humanity as a disembodied ideal. There were a number of reformatory movements before 1500 which looked fully as promising and powerful as did the movement led by Luther in its early years. But the fortified authority of the papacy and clergy succeeded in frustrating them, and they ebbed away again. The Lutheran and Calvinistic Reformation succeeded because they enlisted classes which were sufficiently strong politically and economically to defend the cause of Reformed religion. It was only when concrete material interests entered into a working alliance with truth that enough force was rallied to break down the frowning walls of error. On the other hand, the classes within which Anabaptism gained lodgment lacked that concrete power, and so the Anabaptist movement, which promised for a short time to be the real Reformation of Germany, just as it came to be the real Reformation of England in the Commonwealth, died a useless and despised death. In the French Revolution, the ideal of democracy won a great victory, not simply because the ideal was so fair, but because it represented the concrete interests of the strong, wealthy, and intelligent business class, and that class was able to wrest political control from the king, the aristocracy, and the clergy. The question is whether the ideal of cooperation and economic fraternity can today depend on any great and conquering class whose self-interest is bound up with the victory of that principle. It's hopeless to expect the business class to espouse that principle as a class. Individuals in the business class will do so, but the class will not. There is no historical precedent for an altruistic self-effacement of a whole class. Of the professional class, it is safe to expect that an important minority, perhaps a larger minority in our country than in any other country heretofore, will range themselves under the new social ideal. With them especially, the factor of religion will prove of immense power. But their motives will, in the main, be idealistic, and in the present stage of man's moral development, the unselfish emotions are fragile and easily chafed through, unless the coarse fiber of self-interest is woven into them. But there is another class to which that conception of organized fraternity is not only a moral ideal, but the hope for bread and butter, with which it enlists not only religious devotion and self-sacrifice, but involves salvation from poverty and insecurity and participation in the wealth and culture of modern life for themselves and their children. I'll put in a link to a Anabaptist we only recently found out about, that is within the last 2 years, an ex-Jehovah's Witness at that, David Berceau, who has got quite a few videos on YouTube, by the way, about his commitments and current commitments, and has one about his JW life as well. We'll put in a link to our little commentary after we discovered him and ordered one of his books, which is this one, A Dictionary of Early Christian Beliefs. So a link on your screen to David Berceau, an Anabaptist in commitments today, but formerly a Jehovah's Witness.